Well, welcome everybody to Bathica Banter. And people, I could not be more excited about our guest today. Our guest is Mr. Nathan Horton, who is the CEO of One Click Heating and Cooling. So let's all say hello to Nathan. Nathan, say hello to everybody.
How's it going? Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Great to have you, Nathan. Well, Nathan, something that is pretty much the same with every interview I do, I like to start with your background. If you would be so kind to give the audience an idea of the journey it took for you to get to be the CEO of One Click Heating and Cooling, please share that with us.
Sure. I think, like a lot of people in heating and cooling, I got into it by accident.
Right.
Answered the wrong ad. I'm in my early 20s for a marketing position, assisting with lead generation campaigns for Reliance Home Comfort. So I worked with Reliance for quite a few years in the marketing capacity. During the time where a lot of guys were going around door to door, so we created a lot of marketing content and different marketing initiatives to kind of assist with that. Through there, I did grow and actually open up an HVAC company in Alberta. So I operated out of Edmonton and Kelowna for about 4 or 5 years.
Nice.
And then got a random call from a dear friend at Reliance over a new program dealing with property managers in Ontario. So hopped on a flight, came back, and that was about 7 years ago in Ottawa. Worked with property managers for about a year, and then really saw a need in the industry for something different, something a little bit more unique, pricing wise, as well as how we navigate and deal with customers. And that's where really One Click began and started. So I was never the installer, more of the marketing force behind it.
Well, and I find that so interesting, Nathan. You know, I have always said about our trade, about our industry, that generally, this is not, you know, I am painting with a wide brush, as they say, but I have found generally either you're a good business person or a good technician. It's rare to find both, right? But it's so important to be a good business person, right? And you're proof of that. Your growth and what you have created, in my opinion, and we'll talk in great detail about this. I'm fascinated by it, and that's why I wanted you to be here as a guest. So, in that same vein, Nathan, now please share with us about One Click Heating and Cooling. Give us its history and how did that come about?
Yeah, so I did this project working with property management groups and wanted to create a program to continue working with property groups, cooperative housing, municipal housing, where we created a mobile application that allowed these type of organizations to purchase equipment pre-financed. So we pre-finance these customers, and they could purchase and select equipment through our mobile application, and we'd show up the next day and install. So created a very seamless process. We tried to eliminate a lot of the paperwork side that's involved, as well as the site visits, to make it quick. It was all about being fast, efficient, and also being transparent when it came to pricing. When we originally started, we were actually called Easy Heat, easyheat.ca. Still one of my favorite names. However, Emerson did win that battle many years before us. So One Click was the new name, and it was really driven by that one-click solution. One click to be able to order that equipment, one click in financing, simplifying that sales process from sitting at the kitchen table to making it a little bit more ease of use and transparent, but also fast. It was all about speed.
Interesting. I want to go back to something you mentioned from your first answer, and you started in Alberta. Are you originally from Alberta, Nathan?
No, I'm actually originally from North Bay, Ontario, Bonfield.
Oh, okay.
So, little hole in the wall with a population of 300 at the time. And from there, I've always been very eager to expand and also travel. So in my early 20s, it was where can I go and do what I do? So Alberta was completely unnecessary, but it was a fun adventure either way, and we got to experience a lot of what was going on there. And when we were in Alberta and BC, heat pumps were starting there.
Right.
So we got to really get an idea of what heat pump technology was, what was coming. And that was really even the first steps in understanding heat pump technology, was being in the West Coast.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated Well, I'm fascinated with Canadian politics in general, and I'm an American, right? So I got no dog in the fight. I got no horse in the race. So I could look at it objectively, and I find Alberta's provincial politics to be so interesting. Danielle Smith and uh, the concept. I'm trying to think of the name of the act that she put together, where essentially separate but together in a united Canada. Very, very interesting. I just find that fascinating. But I'll move on. We could go down a whole nother.
We have lots of provinces, like you have lots of states. How's that?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But you mentioned again the name One Click Heating and Cooling, and I love the name for so many reasons. It's current, it's literal, but it's catchy and easy to remember at the same time. And also, one of the questions I have for you is it trademarked? Because I can imagine anybody could be One Click Fencing, One Click this, One Click that. So tell me, I know you told us a little bit about the origin of the name, but is it trademarked?
Yeah, we trademarked it immediately after we switched from Easy Heat. So that was, I think, approximately 5 years ago now.
Gotcha. No, it's brilliant because again, it's so literal, right? Literally one click nowadays. No, but I'm older than you, Nathan. When I was contracting for 23 years back in New York and New Jersey, there was no one click. It was the yellow pages. And you talk to young people today, they don't even know what the yellow pages were, right? They have no concept. Do you know what the yellow pages were?
I do remember them.
Okay.
I remember the first cell phone. So
yeah,
I'm not too young, but I'm not too old.
Right. I mean, that's how contractors advertised their services was through the yellow pages, which was a big ass phone book. Anyway,
yellow pages and flyer delivery.
Yeah. So, Nathan, I'm interested in learning about One Click's heating and cooling, your business model. Clearly, you are not the typical HVAC contractor, and that's why I was so excited to have you on the program. If I understand correctly, your service area is coast to coast. You are coast to coast in Canada, and maybe even aspirations to go international at some point. So I completely understand you don't want to divulge all of your trade secrets to your competitors who may ultimately watch this, but please share with us at least the basic business model. How can you be an HVAC contractor coast to coast?
It's a great question. When we first started, in the model was really being able to service all areas. So when we started in Ontario, it was how do you service the entire population of Ontario? And as coming from the US, I'm sure you're still taking a look at our geographical areas, and we're very spread out. Most of our population sits within the southern border, but there's still a substantial amount of people that live interior to Canada. And a large percentage of these are oil customers, propane customers, which we do a lot with from an electrification standpoint. So what we try to do is mitigate that through either our own installers. So in several markets, we have opened up installation branches, particularly electricians. So we've looked at hiring or acquiring electrical companies across Canada. And then outside of that, we really work it as I hate to use the example, but as an Uber model, where we work with local contractors that we've trained that are pre-vetted to be able to maintain installation capacity, as well as servicing capacity in areas where we don't have a large footprint. Being online and e-com, we have a very large market availability. We don't strategically just target one city. We go and we'll target an entire province. So our customers are very spread across the area. And to manage that, it really does come down to really good, strong relationships with local installation networks, as well as our own technicians to be able to supplement that.
Is the term subcontracting that's kind of had a bad connotation over the years, but it sounds like that's what you're doing in some markets. Yes?
Yeah, we 100% use subcontractors. One thing about the HVAC industry in general is it's a very fragmented industry. There's a lot of contractors and a lot of really good contractors out there that may only have 1 or 2 trucks and a couple guys, but they do phenomenal work. What we do is we supplement their jobs. So we're able to scale up, bring opportunities to these guys in areas where in some cases they wouldn't have those opportunities to do installations. So we've created these great relationships over the years by working with them. Not coming in and trying to take over, but really working with that local installation network and supporting them through training, through product, through ongoing support, but at the same time supplying them with ongoing jobs. And in a lot of cases for us, we're not so much geared by environmental. So we're always bringing new opportunities to these guys. So we're able to build really strong relationships. I think if you use subcontractors without a proper vetting, and proper training in place, then it can become a really bad word, right? You got to be able to manage that expectation and have the people and controls in place to make sure you're getting the quality you're looking for and what you'd expect for your customers.
No doubt. It's so interesting, Nathan, and in doing some research about one-click heating and cooling and knowing you now for a little bit, I know some of the guys that you have used for subcontracting, and I can share with our audience that across the board, everyone I've spoken to who has worked for you and continues to work for you, love it. It's clearly a relationship that works for both of you because, again, going back to something that we started at, either you're a good business person or a good technician. It's hard to be both. Well, you bring the good business to them. They can be the excellent technician. You'll handle the business side of it. And I just think that's brilliant and quite unique to say the least. Well, look, Nathan, Guillaume Calais, our CEO at Bathica, and I visited your Toronto location not all that long ago. And first of all, talk about not being your average HVAC contractor. Your location, first of all, in downtown Toronto, blows me away. In a beautiful mid-rise building, clearly not your typical HQ for an HVAC contractor. And again, I'm going to show my age here, but that's okay. When I got out of the elevator and we walked into your facility there, I saw what I would describe as a boiler room phone room. I'm again old enough to remember how they used to sell newspaper subscriptions. It was literally this enormous room with cubicles and people calling. And that's kind of what I witnessed there. And it was people taking calls from potential customers coast to coast in Canada. And where I'm going with this, Nathan, is a couple of questions here. What is the percentage of calls into one click that turns into a customer? And those people who are taking those calls, I would have to think they have to be trained in order to be able to turn that potential customer into a customer. So please share with us what's it like to find those people, to train those people, and how that all works.
Good question. I'm going to start with the reason we probably don't look like a standard HVAC company is we're not.
Right.
We're an electrification company.
Right.
When we looked at what we wanted to grow out of this business from the get-go, we didn't want to be the standard quo. HVAC in general really hasn't changed. It hasn't changed in a magnitude of years, how it's operated, how salespeople navigate with customers at the kitchen table with all their brochures. That's really been the standard. So when we set out, we really wanted to say, okay, let's do something different. And that's where where the electrification side really came in. Our team is, I appreciate the boiler room messaging because we got a really big team that's in here. Everything from operational controls to CSR to our accounting, but also then we also have our electrification agents. And these specialists are fully trained young professional adults in electrification. They have ongoing support, ongoing assistance. And when we speak to a customer, I guess comparatively to what it would be normalized in the industry, it's very much an educational piece. We're here to teach and educate. Electrification, heat pumps in general, heat pumps being the heart of the house of electrification, still aren't as well known or as understood as they could be. So we really feel that our job as an educator and to teach customers and teach potential opportunities of what these products are and what kind of value they can get out of them.
Oh, it's brilliant that I love how you described your company and your people as educators, because that's what we're doing now, isn't it, Nathan?
Yeah.
You know, I find myself educating the trade, but it is the end users, the homeowners that need educating as well. You know, heat pumps are foreign to many people. I still go to some areas of Canada where heat pumps are still, you know, they kind of look at with a suspect eye. So yeah, educating your potential customer, absolutely brilliant. Hey Nathan, you know, again, I've been at this a long time. I'm an old guy, and I've always found what I thought was a fascinating phenomenon, and I lived this. You know, Patricia and I, for 23 years, owned an HVAC contracting business in New York and New Jersey. And what I've always noticed, that I find it to be, I think, an interesting psychological phenomenon in our trade. When you're small, when you're a mom and pop, literally a mom and pop with a single truck, you strive to be big. You know, you want to be big. You want to have 20 trucks. You want to have 100 trucks. And if you ever do get to that point, and I've met a number of guys over the years who have done that, I noticed that they long for the day that when they were small again, you know, when things were simpler. But one-click heating and cooling is certainly an anomaly to this. I think you're an anomaly on many points, all good, may I add. But where I'm going with this, Nathan, is where do you see one-click heating and cooling 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What's your long-term goal?
Well, I think as a organization, we're building a very scalable platform and model that allows us to enter markets very quickly and efficiently. You know, we hear that all the same, Jerry, and you know, we have a philosophy here that we don't want to be the biggest company. We just want to be the best one.
Nice.
And that starts with the best customer service, the best education, the best people. So our modeling over the next 5-10 years, I think we will be somebody to watch over the next 5-10 years as we continue to develop our platform and continue to grow it. Right now, we're still working on just being the best. And that's what's most important to us in all markets, to be recognized as that and be the market leaders and thought leaders when it comes to heat pump installations.
Yeah, Nathan, again, you know, I have been around, and I've seen others try to do similar things to what you're doing, mainly here in the States. And, you know, they might have had moments of success, but long term, it was never sustainable. Where I see the biggest difference, the critical difference with one-click heating and cooling and to others who have attempted it, is what you just zeroed in on: being the best. Quality, right? Quality is so important to you guys. It's not just a machine. You haven't just created this machine where you're doing jobs, next one, next one, next one. You are concerned about the quality of each and every job. And that's a beautiful thing, Nathan. To me, you guys stand out in many ways, but that's the most important way. You are concerned about the quality of each and every job. It is what will sustain you, and you know it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, Nathan, you and your crew at One Click are some of the most tuned in people into the inner workings of the Canadian government, at least as it regards to rebates, programs, and initiatives. You guys always seem to be ahead of everyone else in preparation for the next rebate program or whatever it may be. So my question to you is, how is that? How are you so tuned into that? Because it's obviously not everybody's capable of that. Please share that with us.
Investing the time in understanding these programs, being involved on a community side, also provincially and federally, to understand how these programs work. We have an entire department that's devoted to assisting our customers through these programs and navigating through these programs. anytime a government comes out with a rebate and a grant, there's usually a substantial amount of effort and paperwork and process involved to get that grant. We realized that very early on. I've been working through federal and provincial grants all the way back to high efficiency furnaces 15 years ago. So we understand the priority and the importance of it, making sure customers understand it. And for us to be able to deliver back to best customer service, we need to know how these programs work and far enough in advance to ensure that we can educate all the way down. So we spend a lot of time and effort ensuring that we do know what's going on, and also how we can also assist with better developing that. And that's what providing insights back on a provincial, federal level as well, back to utility on how these programs operate, and really trying to have a good voice at the table. It helps our customers, and it also helps us be a little bit more knowledgeable in it.
Something you mentioned early on in your answer jumped out at me, Nathan, and that is, with these programs, there is a lot of paperwork for the end user, for the homeowner, in order to take advantage of the rebates. And it could be cumbersome, to say the least. So did I hear you right? One click, you actually assist the homeowner in that process?
Yeah, we have an internal team that will help customers, guide them through. We also have our own internal documents to assist customers on walkthrough to make sure this is done. We also double check. When the Greener Homes Grant was in Ontario, across Canada, we had a 100% rate of success on our customers to get their grant money. But it really comes down to ensuring we're doing the right thing, ensuring the right equipment's going in, and making sure the customer knows what that process is in advance to ensure they get the grants. So it gets back to the original answer when we talk about education, right? Yeah. And it falls into the exact same category. Knowing these grants just makes us better educators. If you go on our website under grant programs, all the grants are listed there, how to get them, what's involved, what customers need to do. And we have no problem sharing that information, because the more people that have it is the better. And it just comes down to, again, being good educators. So the more data and the more information we can have up front that we can provide down and teach better, the better opportunity that customer is going to have to get their grants.
Oh, no question. And certainly that is a huge advantage that I would believe you have over many of your competitors. Again, being able to essentially hold the hand, if you will, of the customer through the rebate process to ensure that they get everything that is possibly due them. So super, super helpful. I want to stay on the subject, Nathan, of government initiatives. Electrification, you've said it a number of times already. Electrification is a new word in our vernacular, right? Who would have ever said electrification just 5 years ago? So there's this movement away from fossil fuels to electrification, and that's well underway in Canada, coast to coast. So I'm interested to know your view, both professionally and personally, on electrification. And do you think fossil fuels are headed for the history books? Please.
So, again, really good questions, Jerry. Electrification is the new go forward. If you look around the world, Canada's and North America in general is fairly reliant on oil. We have been. We're a very rich mineral society. So oil has really been the prominent. You look around Europe. I think I just read an article yesterday where Germany pretty much told us that watch out, because we're not going to need as much of your oil very soon. Electrification's already taken hold. You see it in Canada now with a lot more push and drive towards it, not only from a consumer level, but also on a provincial and federal level. I think it's becoming more of an understanding that this is the path forward. This is where we're going. And we're starting to catch up a bit. I think oil and gas is gone tomorrow? No. But I do think in 10, 15, 20 years, our kids are going to be looking back and saying, wait, you guys had an oil tank in your house? And I think that's going to be that first step where we're going to start seeing. And one of the things One Click's really heavily worked on is the removal of dirty fuels, we'll call them. So oil, propane, areas where electrification is going to have the largest impact today. We're really seeing a big push in those markets to move forward with electrification as fast as possible. Gas is going to have its place in Canada while we still mitigate grid. We still mitigate load management. We still mitigate all these new products we're going to need to get full electrification. It's still going to have its job, but I don't think it's going to be around here forever, at least not in the residential space.
Right, right. And going back to Alberta, again, where a fair amount of oil and natural gas comes from in Canada, and the premier there, Danielle Smith, saying that, hey, Ottawa, you can't be putting these crazy taxes on something that is very unique to Alberta, So again, what is good for one province is not necessarily good across the country, or at least for Alberta. So I always find that interesting as well. Yeah. Well, look, Nathan, again, in researching your company prior to the interview, I noticed on your website that you offer the installation of EV chargers for electric vehicles. And I'm so curious about this. I'm wondering, how much of a market is there for that? And is there now a singular EV charger that will handle all electrical cars, Tesla, Kia? Help me with that.
I think, and as you most likely know, Jerry, being from the US, the technology advancements in EV, battery backup systems, solar, really all electrification projects has really tenfolded over the last several years.
Yeah.
I think there's going to even be more continuous advancement over the next while. And really looking at what we're doing at this point is becoming that electrification provider. So we do offer EV. We are looking to also offer battery backup systems starting in January 2025. We're waiting on the ESA to get some approvals done where we can get some smart panels in Canada. But we are really pushing towards being that electrification full provider. It's one of the reasons when we're looking at acquisition or opening new branches, we start with electricians. All of our team, we have more electricians than we have any other trade. And we're upskilling these electricians now for the refrigeration and so on, to really build out this installation of electrification infrastructure that we're going to require. And when we're looking at that over the next 5-10 years, being able to electrify a home is going to be a lot of different parts and pieces to that. The heat pump is a good start because it's the heart of the system. Right. But EV really becomes that secondary piece as that natural transition right now away from gas vehicles. And that's going to be followed up by, how do we manage that load in the home through different technologies? How do we manage the capacity requirements through battery backup systems? So it's a very small part of a really big picture. And we look to electrify the home, and that's why we say we're not an HVAC company, we're an electrification company. Right now, we're supplying the heart of the system, but that rest of the system, as it develops, as the technology continues to improve, we'll be able to offer this to Canadians and potentially Americans when we look to expand across. So,
yeah, brilliant. The reason I asked about the EV charger, just on a personal experience, I was in Vegas, and I always rent cars from Avis, and I pick up my car, and I didn't realize until I left the Avis Center that this was a EV. It wasn't a hybrid. It was 100% electric. And what blew my mind about it is I pulled up to a Tesla charging station. I didn't know the difference. A completely different plug-in. You can't charge a Kia at a Tesla charging station, and that was an education for me. But I think that's something that EV chargers have to be refined. I would like to see there be a universal charging for all the different makes, because that was kind of a nightmare, to be honest with you.
I think over time, you look at even what happened with cell phone chargers, right? Exactly. It only makes sense to have universal to keep it more simplified, and it's less waste. Or we're going to have random adapters for everything, and it just creates more waste and more carbon.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has a drawer full of phone chargers, right? It's ridiculous. Well, I want to stay on this topic, and you touched on it, being that, saying that you want One Click to be an electrification company, not an HVAC company, an electrification company. So to that end, are you guys getting into, or are you already into photovoltaic solar?
We haven't gotten into solar as of yet. Some of the branches and companies that we have acquired do solar installations, but we mostly concentrate on the electric component of it. So we work with some solar companies on the electric side, managing the backup systems and the connection itself. But solar hasn't been a major component of that. In Canada, the industry in general has a lot of ups and downs. It's very much variant based on grant programs, different loan programs. So it's not something that we really had the appetite to get into right away. And our focus is still right now really concentrating on that heat pump side of it, right? And getting the heart of that system in the home. It's never to say that this can be an opportunity down the road. But as of right now, we try to stay in our solution, and that's the electrification side.
Gotcha. I'm interested in it because it's a very personal subject for me. I think you probably know Patricia and I went solar here, I guess, 2 years ago. And I can tell you, Nathan, it's absolutely fabulous. It's exceeded our expectations. It took a really unmanageable electric bill down to, well, now it's zero, quite frankly. We actually work from a credit at this point. It's really, really wonderful. So, yeah, I could see that moving forward for not only for One Click, but for Canada in general. I could see solar becoming a big play up there for sure. Hey,
I think I just saw a video of yours using a leaf blower to clean off your solar panels.
Yes. Yes, because the panels will accumulate snow. That's a very common question I get. Will they hold snow? They will. And obviously, if snow is covering them, they are not functioning. So you got to get the snow off of there. But at the same time, you don't want to use a broom or a brush or anything that comes in direct contact with the panel, because that could damage a very expensive panel. So our guy who did the install for us suggested the leaf blower. It's perfect.
Seemed to do the job.
Probably a better use for an actual leaf blower than actually blowing leaves. Look, Nathan, as you know, probably 80% of my business is in Canada, but I don't live there. I'm talking to you right now from central Pennsylvania. So because I am not there, I really don't see how you guys advertise to the end user. And I'm so curious about One Click Heating and Cooling's marketing campaign. How do you guys get yourself known throughout the different markets within Canada? Help me with that.
Going to go back to my favorite word, education.
Yeah.
We're obviously very heavily involved on social platforms. We are an IT e-com company, first and foremost. So being able to market ourselves through various online channels really does come from a natural standpoint. But at the end of the day, we advertise through education. It's one heating and cooling right now, or heat pumps in general. It's very much a buzzword, politicized very much as well. So everybody's heard of heat pumps, good or bad. It's all over the place. And we really try to be that thought leader to make sure customers have somewhere to go with the right information. The proper and correct information. So it's really about being the educators. We don't go down the pushy sales track that a lot of companies try on, or the aggressive sales. We really try to engage customers more on information and teaching them about what heat pumps are, how they're going to work for their home. Yes, they will still work when it's cold outside and there's snow on the ground. And that's really our jobs from a marketing standpoint, is how can we better educate the market? And if we educate the market really well and we engage those customers properly, naturally, we've done well with being able to secure some business. And that's creating that trust factor with them through education and making sure that when customers are asking these questions and how a heat pump works, how do you get the grant? They think of One Click, and they think of One Click Heating and Cooling as that leader in the space.
No, brilliant. But Are you guys on TV? Have you done that yet, Nathan?
We've done a little bit here and there, but really hasn't. A lot of the traditional marketing that I think you'd expect when it comes to heating and cooling companies, I think we leave for heating and cooling companies.
I
And
got you.
as the electrification leader, we stick to more advanced channels that are going to get us a different segment of the population that's more in tune and looking for these type of solutions.
Yeah. Well, you're educating right now. You're educating me. Seriously. I find this fascinating. You have created, first of all, a new term. You're an electrification contractor. You're not an HVAC contractor. I love how you categorize yourself. I think that's brilliant. And also, as a guy who has dedicated probably the last 20 years of my career to education, you keep on coming back to that. But you're bringing it to the general public level, right, to the end user, to the homeowner, and so critical, to say the least. So I applaud you, Nathan, for those efforts. Clearly it is your key to success. I think, look, I think a lot of people are going to watch this program because you're my guest. And I think a lot of them are going to try and see if they can detect your secret to success. I think you just exposed it, right? And that is, you are targeting, you are looking at education as your primary resource to the end user. And I just think that's brilliant. And I don't think that's been done before, quite frankly, at least not on the scale that you guys are doing it.
I think if the industry turned around and tried to duplicate that success, would only just be better for the industry. We need more education, not just from a consumer level. We need it on a contractor level, an owner level, municipal, federal, utility. Education is key right now to the industry success in electrification and pushing Canada forward as an electrification country.
No question. No question. Well, Nathan, we're getting to the end of our time together. So look, I've known you for a couple of years now, but I know you mostly through our business relationship. But I'm very interested outside of business. What turns you on? What's your hobbies? Tell us about your family. Give us a little insight into Nathan Horton as a man.
Sure. Well, I like to golf. So being down on Bay Street in Toronto, I think it's a prerequisite for me to get a lease, is to play as much golf as humanly possible. However, I think over the next several months, that's going to take a little bit of a dip. I actually have my first son being born in about 4 weeks now. So,
congrats!
Get to take an attempt at a new challenge in life to go along with the one I currently face, and I'm really looking forward to that and building a family while we continue to build one click into the electrification company that we want to become.
Oh, brilliant, Nathan. Congratulations on that. Yes, a life-changing event upcoming for you for sure. Very good. Well, look, Nathan, we are at the end of our conversation today. And something that I have always done, if you watched the program previously, is I always end the program with something that I call Jerry's Pick of the Month, which is just something that in the last 30 days I've discovered that has been a real turn on. And it oftentimes, almost always for me anyway, goes outside of the HVAC realm. I love documentaries. I'm into music. So I could recommend many different things. But what I have been doing since we changed the name of our program to Bathica Banter is to offer our guests the same opportunity. So Nathan, please share with our guests, with our audience rather, something that you've discovered recently that you just want the whole world to know about.
Well, I'm gonna break the rules, and I'm gonna make it electrification related.
Good. No.
Something you'll probably see me doing quite a bit of post on over the next little while is load management and smart panels. How do we navigate right now in our market 100 amp service in areas where it's almost impossible to upgrade, and really pushing these conversations. And for me, being in the industry for only 15 years, it's still fun at this point. Every time you get a new product you can play with, that you can understand and you can work with. But I think the industry in general, all of our minds should be on load management. if we can't get enough power, we need to figure out how to mitigate it, and it's going to take a lot of smart people to figure this out and get everything approved and get some processes in place. So if anybody's on the call or listening in that's industry related, load managers, how can we get these approved faster on more products? How can we get smart panels approved faster and on more products? For in general, we can push forward to hit these 2035 targets that we have in Canada on electrification.
Yeah. And so timely and topical, right? I know there are projects out there, Nathan, that have been problematic for us because of this. For whatever reason, the electrical service cannot be upgraded, or at least it's not an economical option.
Yeah.
And if everything came on simultaneously, especially in multifamily, it could cause a potential problem. So yeah, load management. How do we maintain that? How can we not turn everything on at the same time?
How do we manage these loads? Instead of expecting we can get a 200 or 400 amp service in every house in the market, how can we start managing the electrical consumption and how this is operating? And being in the U.S., you guys have a little bit more opportunity on these products. You got a lot more stuff that's been approved, so you can play with a lot more. In Canada right now, the only load manager that's been ESA approved is for EV. And it doesn't help us when we're dealing with whole home electrification. Now, the products are on the market. It's just going to take an industry approach, I think, to start pushing this stuff along. So that would be my my pick right now is take a look at load management, take a look at smart panels, start having these conversations with your suppliers, start having these conversations with your local ESA, and let's combine effort to start pushing this along, because there's not too much of an opportunity for us to hit Canadians' targets of 2035 without starting to understand that piece.
Yeah, well, let's encourage the young, brilliant minds in Canada to start looking seriously at this. This is a need that they can help with immediately and make an incredible impact. So, hopefully, you're mentioning this, Nathan, will encourage people to start working on that, because it is quite important. Well, look, Nathan, I can't thank you enough, brother. I've been so looking forward to this conversation. I knew you would hit it out of the park, and you sure did. Look forward to seeing you soon, I hope. I'll be up in Toronto in the next few weeks, and I hope we can at least say a quick hi to each other. But Nathan, you're the best. You got a great company, a great crew. I just love watching what you guys are doing. It's groundbreaking. It's so important to the entire industry and the trade. And just love you, brother. Thanks so much for being a guest.
Really appreciate the time, and really appreciate you having me here, Jerry. Likewise, it's been a pleasure the last few years knowing you guys and working with you. There's a reason we work with you guys so extensively, and it's that knowledge base. And as you said, you've been an educator for 20 years, and we get to see that firsthand. I think you've literally done the training on almost every technician we have in the market, and you continue to offer these. So we appreciate you and everything you bring to the table. And thanks again for having me today.
Thank you, Nathan. You're the best. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Well, what a great conversation with Nathan Horton of One Click Heating and Cooling. Just such an interesting guy, and what an interesting business model. I suggest everybody keep an eye on One Click moving forward. Just exciting people doing exciting things. Okay, it is time for Jerry's Pick of the Month. And I think this is becoming the norm. Maybe it shouldn't be, but I think I'm going to recommend another documentary, people. I love documentaries. And this one is about something else I love, and that's The Sopranos, the HBO program, The Sopranos. They just ran a Sopranos marathon, essentially, all the seasons back to back. And then it ended with the documentary that I'm about to recommend, and that is Wise Guy, David Chase, and The Sopranos. Really interesting. It concentrates, as the title would suggest, mainly on David Chase, the creator of The Sopranos. But it does involve interviews with many of the cast members, and explains You know, some of the Sopranos I did not realize is somewhat autobiographic of David Chase's life, and I never would have suspected that. But anyway, really cool documentary about a really cool television show and the creator of that show. So once again, Wise Guy, David Chase, and The Sopranos. Well, thanks everybody for listening and watching. Catch you again in another 30 days or so with another episode of Bathica Banter. Thanks everybody.